Looking for some hearty, comforting soups that are good for any season? Well, get ready because today we're cooking up 3 recipes that are seriously tasty bowls of goodness. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Empty Pantry. I'm Amy and I'm here to help you turn your tight budget into delicious meals. Today we are talking about homemade soups. I'll share with you 3 simple budget-friendly recipes that you can make any time of year. We're going to be making something classic, something spicy, and something comforting. So if you're ready to get started, let's start cooking. First, we'll make a chicken enchilada soup. I have a couple of shortcuts to make this one quick if you need it. Then we'll make a cabbage roll soup that tastes just like Grandma used to make it, followed by a minestrone soup, which is great for those who are looking for a vegetarian option. For the chicken enchilada soup, I'm going to cook it in my crock pot. You could totally do this on the stove if you like, if you need it done faster. I had a little bit of time this day, so I did it in the crock pot. I'm going to start with 1 large onion that I have diced up, and then I'm going to put in some chicken. I had some leftover chicken that was already cooked, which is perfect for this recipe. It makes it that much faster, and it was about 2 cups that I added to my crock pot. Now, to make it that enchilada taste, I'm going to use a little shortcut by using a packet of enchilada sauce mix. This has a really good flavor. I bought this at Winco and it was, 39 cents or something. It was really cheap. I think it's a great deal and it's a lot faster than measuring out all the regular spices that you would put in enchilada sauce. So the little packet just goes in there. Now we're going to need some tomato sauce. I'm going to use the tomato sauce with some jalapenos in it to add some extra spice. Just pour that directly in there. Can you already taste it with all those good spices? You know this is going to be good. Now, 1 can, about 15 ounces of crushed tomatoes, and we're going to leave the juice in there where you want that juice to add some flavor to our soup. So pour that in there. And then obviously this is a little bit thick, so we're going to need to make it more of a soup. So we're going to need to add some chicken stock. And we're going to add 32 ounces of chicken stock. Now that it's starting to look more like a soup because we're adding this chicken stock, we still have a couple more goodies to put in here. So I'm going to add 1 can of corn. That's equivalent to about 1 cup that has been drained and rinsed. And then we're just going to let this cook for about 2 to 3 hours. We're just looking for the flavors to meld and those onions to get soft. That chicken's already done, so we don't need to worry about that. And there is 1 more ingredient. So I've let it cook for a little bit. I really let those flavors meld together. Now I'm going to add my beans. I waited until now so that they didn't get just completely mushy and fall apart. So 1 can of black beans that I have rinsed and drained. Now, if you did this on the stove, just add the beans when you add the corn because you don't have to worry about it overcooking in the crock pot, slow cooking. So now that we have that, our soup is ready to eat. You can serve it just like it is. I like to put some avocados, a little bit of sour cream, and some tortilla chips in it. It makes a really nice flavor and a little bit of crunch and a little bit of texture. Now for the cabbage roll soup. I'm going to do this in the crock pot. I just love the smell of simmering soup in the house. I'm going to start with 1 pound of ground beef that I have browned and drained any extra fat off of. I'm going to put that in the bottom of the crock pot. To that, I'm going to add 1 medium onion that I have diced up. Really, any kind of onion is going to work. It can be white, it can be yellow, whatever you have. It's going to kind of slow cook, and so it'll be just fine, whatever you have. And then I need some beef bouillon. So this is 1 cube of beef bouillon and 2 cups of water. If you have beef stock, you can use 2 cups of beef stock. 1 can of diced tomatoes with the juice goes in there. And then to add a little bit of depth to it, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. That adds kind of a depth and richness to it. And then, of course, we need some garlic. So I'm going to use the jar garlic. You can use fresh garlic. I prefer fresh garlic, but this day I had the jar available. Okay, so garlic adds such a nice flavor. You could omit it for this recipe, but I highly recommend adding that garlic to it. It really adds a great flavor. It's very, very flavorful. And then we need some Worcestershire sauce. So about 1 tablespoon or a few chugs of Worcestershire sauce. And then an interesting ingredient
for this is nutmeg. So about 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. You don't taste it when it's done, but it does something that just really adds to this soup. And then a pinch of salt, and then it's cabbage soup. So of course I'm going to need to add some cabbage, but before that, I'm going to stir this up. If I put the cabbage in now, it'd be really hard to stir. So I'm going to get this all mixed together with all those flavors before I add my cabbage. This is the green cabbage, and I am using 4 cups of chopped cabbage. You can kind of see it's a big chunk of cabbage. It's not shredded or anything. It's not like a coleslaw. It's more of a chunk. You want it to hold together as you slow cook this. And so I'm just going to kind of press that down into the meat and into the liquid before I put the lid on it to cook. And you're going to let this cook for about 3 to 4 hours. You're looking for that cabbage to get nice and wilted, and then you just serve it up like this. It's really good with a little bit of Parmesan cheese if you have that. I served it with some homemade wheat bread. It was a very comforting, yummy soup. Okay, last but not least, we're going to make some minestrone soup. This one I'm going to do on the stove because I needed it for dinner, and I kind of waited till 5 o'clock to start dinner. So this is a pretty quick soup. I'm going to do it in my Dutch oven on the stove, just any large pot. Make sure you have plenty of room for the liquid that we're going to add. Okay, I'm going to start with a couple tablespoons of olive oil. And then when that gets just a little bit warm, I'm going to add some onion. This is half of an onion that I have diced up. And you can see it's not a tiny dice, it's kind of like a medium dice. And then we're going to add some carrots. This is about 1 cup of diced carrots. It was 1 large carrot, but depending on the size of your carrot, it might be more than 1 carrot. And then I'm going to let this saute for just a little bit, just to start to soften those carrots and the onions start to be fragrant. And it's going to take about 3 minutes to hit that phase. They're just going to start to become translucent, and they've softened up just a little bit. Once we hit that stage, we're going to add some tomatoes. So I'm going to add 1 can of diced stewed tomatoes. And then we need some red kidney beans. So 1 can of red kidney beans. I've drained those and did my best to rinse those. And then I'm going to add some fresh parsley. This just smells so good when you chop this up. That was half a cup of chopped parsley. And then of course we need some stock. So I'm going to use vegetable stock, 32 ounces. So one of those boxes of stock. I'm going to pour the whole thing in there. And then once I have that in there, you can see the pan is hot. That's already starting to bubble, and that's what we want, because the next thing we're going to add is some little pasta. I'm going to add about half a cup of this pasta. Sometimes I add more. It kind of just depends on who's eating it. If they really like the pasta, then I might put a whole cup. It's going to absorb a lot of that liquid, so you're going to have less liquid in your soup. So keep that in mind. Maybe you need to add a little bit more stock or a little bit of water to it. But what I'm demonstrating here is just half a cup of the pasta. I think that's a good balance. It makes it more like a vegetable soup. And now I'm going to add some spinach. This is about 4 cups of baby spinach that has been rinsed. Now I have previously used kale, baby kale. That's an option too. It holds up really, really nice. Probably better than the spinach, but I had spinach, so that's what I use. And it's delicious. It adds a really nice color to the soup. And it does cook very quick because this is going to be a quick soup. And just a little bit of salt, so about 1/4 teaspoon. This really depends on your chicken stock, how salty it is. So you might want to taste it. So I just put about 1/4 teaspoon of salt in there. And then I'm just going to let this simmer for a little bit until my pasta is done. That'll be your indicator. Everything else will be done. Just watch the pasta, get one of those little guys out of there, and make sure that it is completely done. You don't want it crunchy. And then we are going to serve it up with a little bit of Parmesan. Is really, really good on the top of this.
Well, that's it for today's recipes. I'm curious as to which recipe you're going to try first. Please let us know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I have so many more recipes to share with you. So until next time, happy cooking. Bye.